Tier 100, but always nice to throw an next one in as well. Of course, the position stats spawns in isn't where his name is actually stats already. Oops, it's not stat, it is stats. There we go. Alright, thank you very much, Lib75 for the tier 500. Guys, let's show some love in the chat, please. For Lib. It's very quiet in the chat, guys. What's up? How are we all doing? I know Kung Fu Cup's on as well today. It's going to be on all week. But if you're around, let me know what's going on. Let me know how it's going. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know just what's up. It's a little bit quiet today. Let's get some life in us, shall we? Get some life in us. Let me, someone's already updating the team, look perfect. Alright then we can just introduce our players. The bottom right hand side from Africa is going to be our Blue Terran player, aLive. And he's going to be going up against the Red Protoss to the top left side of the map. Let's hear if you're going to be cheering on stats. So we set up into this PvT Protoss versus Terran matchup. And we having a little bit of a look to see what we can get up to. We're going to see there's barracks coming in out the front, and just going to be seeing where that sort of leads us to. I mean, it's not really too strange. It has been a gas first, which is why we could maybe see a couple different things. But as the Reaper comes out and we see, oh, changes it to Marine. Oh, okay. That's interesting. He's going to go Marine and an expand, because then he isn't going to be able to build a factory straight away anyways, because he'll be lacking minerals, but he does have the gas for it. That said, he can start his reactor and factory at a similar time, so yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by this. It's a bit different. There's the reactor, and factory should not be too far behind at all. Looks still the factory will not be swapping onto the reactor though, building at a good distance away from that barracks, so not going to just very easily swap onto the reactor and reactor out a couple of Widow Mines or Hellions or whatever he feels the need for. So it's an interesting startup here, I suppose. Not maybe what we're kind of usually completely expecting. Still a bit different. As you're going to see this Marine just going to pop up the ramp and just going to be sat up on the high ground. You're going to see this reactor going to be finishing very shortly as well. And well, an SCV from aLive just going to head up towards the top left hand side. So an SCV continue to make its way towards the upper left. And yeah, I mean, factory is going to be finishing up very soon. The command center is going to be finishing very soon as well. See the robo facility being added on by stats, and warp gate coming up too. So just everything getting set up right now in the early stages of the game. Stats are just going to be popping out of the main base and having a little bit of a look to see what's going on. This SCV taking a little bit of damage on the way in. The depth pops in and does pick that off, so when depth picks off that SCV, then we are just going to be seeing this natural expansion continue to just Corona boost out some probes. So probes continue to be Corona boosted out. And it's going to be seeing the Adept actually going to shade over to the left hand side here, so the Adept shades over to the left and just going to be continuing to move across the map and looking for information. Now it is a Widow Mine out of aLive here early, so Widow Mine drop in the early stages. And it's going to be with the robo facility in the Twilight on the way up. Shouldn't be too much of an issue for stats to deal with this. There's his 2 extra gateways as well. Observer already on the way out. It's just about having the observer in the right place or so. As we're going to be seeing a couple of adepts actually from stats are going to shade out towards the center here. So the adept shading out towards the center doesn't quite really make it anywhere though, as more Marines from aLive will gather themselves together. And he might walk across the map. We've been seeing this a couple of times the last 2 days, where on Frozen Temple, players will actually just walk straight across the map with the Marines and drop the Widow Mines by the medevac. Now, it doesn't look as though that's going to be the case. He's going to go for what I would call the more standard approach, which is going to be the lifting of the Marines, flying them across the map and harassing, and then going for the Widow Mine drop a little bit later on. As you're going to see this medevac continue to boost here. We do see that Observer from stats just continue to move through the center of the map. And aLive just coming in towards the main base the next couple of moments. So aLive just going to be dropping off these few Marines. Starting to unload, and actually unloads, well, out of vision of stats, but stats should know this medevac is here because he did see it from an observer, unless he wasn't quite paying attention. Should be very quick to respond as, ooh, aLive, that's not nice. Could have killed off, actually, by the time he did so much damage to this simulator, could have killed off a couple of probes, honestly, so a little bit of a mistake from him. Going to start working his way through the rover facility. 2 Adepts, 3 Stalkers will come up the ramp, and immediately aLive going to recognize that that's something he wants to just back away from. I think about halfway done here, we'll Prism not far from finishing, as we can see that aLive already, stats is already expecting this Widow Mine play to come in towards his natural expansion here. So stats is almost expecting this already, positioning himself for it. Actually only leaves 1 Stalker in position though, as Marine's going to push in towards the main. You can see some Stalkers taking some damage there. The Moonship Core is not quite centralized between the 2 bases. We're going to see these Widow Mines burrowing. They're not going to go off on too much though. For the most part it really is sort of very, well, just a very good pull away by stats. The few works left behind do go down. 4 of them But when it's only 3 widow mines, well, when there is 3 widow mines, 4 workers lost. It's not too much of a big deal, I would say. I see these 2 stalkers just unloading here and just going to pick off a single SCV before the Liberator sieges up and helps to push this back. The Liberator is sort of the next phase of this game, as just sort of a harassment sort of feature. You know, you get the Liberator up, you start to harass the Pros Mineralized, but it can also add in some defensive purposes too if you don't want to move it across the map straight away. You see the third Nexus coming down from stats. I love the fact that this third Nexus comes down so late. He realizes that aLive is doing this build, which can very easily pick away at your expansion if you're not careful, if you just let it pick away at you. And he's just not really going to be, not really letting that sort of happen. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting. We're just going to be seeing these couple pros continue to come up here from stats, and we're just going to be seeing the War Prism lifting up a couple of depths, a couple of stalkers as well, just getting inside. And just, again, looking to relocate and harass elsewhere. Just see if you can keep the Terran player pinned back. Terran player is building up a siege tank as well, so heading in towards like a tank-based composition. So our referee will resume the game. So heading towards like a tank-based composition. Now, he might just be a couple tanks early to help defend the third base against the initial wave of Protoss, but he might also kind of really build in towards like a big aggressive tank-based push as the game continues. And actually, with 3 extra racks coming down, no sign of the third base just yet, well, there's definitely going to be more tanks than just the 2 for now. I think he's going to go up into as many tanks as he can get, really. Probably like 5 to 6, and then he's going to be pushing with stim, combat shields, and +1, and that push is going to come in. It's a fairly powerful attack, and you know, he's going to be just on 2 bases. He might take a third base behind this. It might be completely committed on just the 1 base, or just on the 2 bases. But either way, it's going to be an aggressive attack. And it works very nicely on this map, because if you think about it, well, let's just look at the center here. This little sort of location right now is very, very interesting, because what you can do is you can drop these couple of tanks down here, and then it allows you to push back units up on the high ground. Push back so they can't really force with the ramp anymore. And that's how you actually make it up this choke point in the center of the map. So it makes a lot of sense for aLive to do what he's doing at this point. I'm just going to be seeing that War Prism continue to sort of pull away. You're going to see a few Stalkers. A couple of Stalkers just going to load. He's actually just going to keep the Adepts in the War Prism, which makes sense. Stalkers not really the best of units to harass with necessarily in a War Prism. I mean, Stalkers, if they're kind of blinking around and harassing on their own, they're pretty great, but to have a couple of Stalkers in the War Prism, they'd just be better off to fill that space with Adepts. And I think that's what he's going to do. I think the Stalkers initially are just because he only really had Stalkers on the map already, and he just wanted to get some units in there that he didn't have to build any more units for, you know, so. Just going to be seeing this War Prism still just set to the south side, and we do see 7 extra gateways coming up, so Stats is really committing into this sort of gateway explosion. He was already on 3, so that's 10 gates in total, and, well, 10 gates is that sort of point at which you sort of look at this and say, maybe he's going to get very aggressive here over the next few minutes, so we're going to be seeing these units of Stats just gathering together. So they're going to gather together. A few extra gateways still on the way up from Stats as well. Resonating Glaives. So about 15 seconds away from finishing the Immortal coming out as well. Going to be about halfway done very soon too. So Immortal coming up to being about halfway done. Going to see the Pylon going to be finishing up shortly as well. And we're just going to be seeing a scan actually coming down here out of aLive. Just having a look to see if there's an observer or anything overhead, I suppose. I see a couple more tanks loaded up, and again just more production coming out here. I love the addition of a couple of Liberators. He's going to start pushing across. It's actually only going to be, yeah, okay, 4 tanks. I said 4 to 5, right? So it's about right. And he goes into some Liberators now as well, which obviously just helps him to buffer up this army. Makes that a little bit stronger once again. Still no sign of a third base for now. And so the attack will be moving across the map shortly. He has Combat Shield Stim and about to hit +1/+2. So there's not really much else for him to wait for at this point. A few Stalkers out the front he has to be cautious of, but other than that, again, there's not really much to wait for. I guess maybe these 2 Liberators are going to make maybe the biggest impact out of stuff you could wait for right now. Having a couple extra Liberators can really go a long way in terms of how well you can zone a certain area, how well you can push a certain, push a player back with those units. As we're going to be seeing Marines and Marauders starting to come up through the center of the map right now then. Having a look to see what they can do, maybe Stalkers there still. I'm not sure why aLive's necessarily taking so long to kind of go for this. He's going to go around the right hand side, so he's going to go for the bit of a longer route. But without having to bully his way through the center. Okay, now he's going to go through the center. I'm just a little bit intrigued, like, he's obviously got to be playing aggressively here. But what is he doing? If he's going to be playing aggressively, then he needs to get going. The longer he waits, the more time Stats has to, well, just sit on free base economy and warp in off of 10 gateways. So he needs to get going sooner rather than later. He does start up the third base back at home, which is fine. I mean, going into third base behind this is nice. It's probably standard, I would say, but he's really kind of just, again, delaying for +1 armor to finish for the Protoss player. That's really nice. I mean, Stats would like to buy time for +1 armor to finish, but he doesn't have to because, well, aLive just took so long, decided to move across the map anyway, and nothing has come up here from aLive apart from the Liberators, but they've been around for a while as well. Nothing new has come up for him which really helps him out in this game. You know, it's not like he's all of a sudden just got an extra upgrade. He's had everything he's needed for a little while, so it's a little bit of a delay. I don't really like it, as we're going to be seeing. They're not going to commit in just yet. I mean, it's a lot of tanks to jump on. He's going to try and jump on the tanks, but I mean, the splash damage should still probably be pretty good. And the Liberators are there overhead though as well. And I don't think it's worthwhile, so just worth buying some time, especially if he's doing damage like this. Look at this, these are depths. Actually just shutting down the entire mineral line of production, so aLive is in a lot of trouble here as a depth shade forwards. Going to be jumping on top of these Marines and Marauders, and he's going to commit. No, he won't. This is a huge stim though, and I mean, every single large stim like that, that is an entire, like a huge chunk of medevac healing just gone. 42 workers killed, 43, 44, 45, 46, and that is every single SCV on the map from aLive now dead. Well, every single SCV is dead right now. It doesn't really matter. His stats has lost his third base. Again, he's not going to commit into this army because he just says, well, you know what? I'm the player who has all the time in the world. You're definitely not that player, so you're the one that has to attack into me. And that's what he's waiting for. aLive, we have nothing but army right now. Literally no workers at all. 0. He does have some mules, obviously, which he can drop if he gets the chance to. So far, these adepts have been cleaning out the mules as they come in. So, you see Stats just pulling back again. He's very happy to just sit back, wait. Tanks are going to go towards the main base now, which will put this into a bit more of an awkward situation. Liberators are going to be sieging up kind of across here as well. And probably a couple of medevac units are going to jump in here too. There's adepts moving forwards, but the rest of the army is still pinned back, which means he is not going to be committing in with the adepts, not when everything else is still at home, you know. So not going to commit in with those, not just yet. Maybe now, because now he's moving forwards with everything else and splitting into this big kind of large concave. Here we go, moving forwards. I like what aLive's doing, trying to kind of get in behind the minerals and just make it a bit of a tougher engagement for our Protoss player here. And we'll also try and target down tanks. They are starting to do that fairly successfully, but it doesn't really matter because he just has so much anyways. GG is called, and Stats will take the first game of this best of 3. And that's going to be Stats taking the first series and first game of this second series. Nice series. No, maybe not. Maybe some 5-game series would be nice. I just hope they're not all 3-0s, basically. As we have to the top, bottom right-hand side of the map here. It's going to be our blue Terran player from Africa. It is aLive. Into the bottom left, our Protoss player from KT Rolster is going to be Stats. So, setting up into game number 2 of this best of 3 series. I mean, it's New Gettysburg, which has a very different dynamic to the way Frozen Temple plays out right from the get-go. So, what's going to be different on this map is the third base is generally a lot easier to take and hold, just because there's not so many ways you can be attacked from. The main sort of points of attack we're looking at in terms of aLive is probably jumping in towards the main base here, with like medevacs, so this sort of area right here is kind of a very dark area. But if Stats can defend that, then really, he's not going to be attacked through here, realistically. And he's just going to be attacked from this direction. You know, whether it's an army coming through the center or a drop from the top, it's this direction. So it's only one direction he has to worry about pretty much all game long. If he positions his army here, or here, or here, I mean, this is obviously a bit more out in the open, but if he just positions his army between the main and natural and third, he's very easily going to get up to position it, you know, to defend the third. He can probably even put it a bit more towards the third base because he should see anything coming across this pathway anyways with a single observer. And so if he needs to, he can reposition some of his army down here. And then he's just going to have just a few units in the main base just to defend whatever might come in there as well. So there's all that. And as we're going to be seeing, this command center is just over halfway done now from aLive. So command center just over halfway done. The factory is starting to build the main base. And it's once again going to be a factory-based opening. We're going to see exactly how this turns out over the next few minutes. Whether he's going to be playing kind of a really sort of... Well, we'll see, I guess. But we'll be figuring out. But he did last time go for the Widowmine drop. And I mean, the Widowmines did an okay job. They didn't do a lot, though. The Marines didn't do much either. It was a good defense by Stats, but it definitely wasn't what put Stats kind of ahead. I feel as though aLive's main mistake in the last game was really when he just sort of didn't decide to attack for so long, when he had nothing left to wait for. I could understand waiting for the 2 extra Liberators, they make quite a big difference. After that, he was literally adding just Marines and Marauders to his army, and that just, benefits the Protoss player so much, because he's on more economy, he's on more production. So the more warping cycles a Protoss player gets, the better time he's going to have defending that sort of attack. So aLive spent too long doing that. It gave Stats a long time to build up army and to also prepare a counter-attack. And so that counter-attack came in. That was obviously fairly game-ending for aLive. It meant he was do or die across the map. And, well, he didn't do much doing. He did a lot of dying. Game 2, though, a whole new opportunity to open up a little bit of a different way. And he is already going for a Cyclone-based opening here. So looking as though we might see a little bit of Marine Cyclone aggression. It's not the small map to kind of walk across, but actually the bottom side pathway in the early game is accessible and is usable. So that's something we could definitely see here. Cyclone just continue to move around from aLive. Factory is going to move off of that tech lab. I'm just going to be seeing Stimpack starting up from this barracks as well. So just going to be seeing Stimpack starting up reactor builds in the factory. And he is actually going to end up just going into a fairly fast starport. It's not going to be like a 2-1-1 timing. It is a 2-1-1 build, but it's very different to the usual time because the factory made a Cyclone early. So that means that he's going to be a little bit later than usual on the 2-1-1 timing. His stim will finish, well, about what? Just after 5:30-ish? No, about 6 minutes-ish. So he's going to be about a minute late on the attack. So let's see if he can do anything with this. Cyclone Marines just sat in the main base for now. The tech from Stats is the same as the last game. Robo Twilight goes into the Warp Prism early while also heading in towards his Blink tech. And again, very standard things really for a Protoss player. They're things which he needs throughout the game. The Warp Prism is very useful as the game goes on. The Blink is very useful throughout the game as well. So very standard stuff. Yeah, I like the sort of position he's starting to put himself into, really. So good stuff so far. You see this Observer is going to be popping out of the main base Robo facility very shortly. We've seen a couple more Stalkers warping in, and there's that Warp Prism from Stats starting to come over the top side, and yeah, just sort of seeing what position he can get into. So Stats going to come through the bottom, actually, through the south, and just again set up, see where he can go. And through this direction, we're going to see this Observer here from Stats just sat overhead as well, and also going to see a Cyclone and a few Marines gathering together still, but Warp Prism going to come from this left side, and there's no real vision at all on the map for aLive. He doesn't have anything on the south side, he doesn't have anything spotted out here. Scans and does not find an Observer, so that's unfortunate. That's a waste of some minerals. There's those Stalkers and Adept moving in. Exact same from Stats once again, There's similar sort of opening here as we do see the Cyclone coming forwards and is going to target down that Warp Prism. Doesn't kill it, but gets a lot of damage onto it, which is nice. A couple of Marines trying to chase, but again, realistically, not going to be able to kill it here. So, just has to back away. Actually sends one medevac units across the map. It's an interesting set of units as well as the Cyclone and the 2 Marines. It looks as though he's just going to try and come in. Okay, he's going to take some map control to the south side. Looks as though he's maybe just be looking to try and catch the Warp Prism with the Cyclone as well if he goes back away to the left. Unfortunately, the Warp Prism is still just sat down here. It's an interesting place to just leave your Cyclone. Poor Cyclone is like, what did I do to be isolated? What did I do to deserve to be isolated like this? Poor Cyclone just is left over here without anything nearby. Rip Cyclone. Let's see if the Marines just sat down the low ground. This medevac play just continued to heal a couple of those up. More Marines joining in actually. As we see the Robo Bay is about 10-15 seconds away from finishing. And you see the +3 gateways just continuing to come in as well. So just setting up. The Robo Bay is very different from what we saw last game obviously. So the Robo Bay allows him to tech up a lot more heavily compared to just playing kind of Adept, Stalker, Immortal. And that might have something to do with the fact there is a third base this time from aLive. It might just be to do with the fact he just feels like playing a more macro-focused game on this map, where there's 2 very kind of big differences with the compositions. The Adept, Stalker, and Immortal is very aggressive. It very much so relies on being able to trade, rebuild very quickly because it's fairly cheap gateway units, and attacking again. Whereas the Colossus-based composition is really much more suited towards, I'm going to sit back and really defend for a good long time. And as I defend, I'm going to get into better position, and I'm going to end up being in a nice, strong position as the game finishes. As I begin to end the game with a lot of tech on my side. I don't have to attack as aggressive. I don't have to worry so much about what the Terran's doing quite as early, anyways. I can just let him do what he wants to do, and I'll build into my Colossi, and I get a very strong sort of mid-game to late-game army. So very different sort of approaches to game 1 and 2 for the Stats, and very kind of tailored to each map as well. Again, we talked about Frozen Temple. It's aggressive, you can attack, and That's what that composition on the last map was all about. New Gettysburg is about defending and playing a little bit more passively, and while we see these units sort of moving towards the centre and so on, the Colossi really do suggest something a little bit more passive, a little bit more, okay, not in any sort of rush to get damage done, happy to sit back and chill out for a little while. Factory comes in overhead here and is going to get targeted by these couple of stalkers. Shouldn't die or anything, but is just kind of found out as we see this Widowmine going to position herself to the south side. I like that, because this Widowmine can catch off quite a lot off guard, anything moving through the south pathway. Although I think there's an observer right next to it, so it's a little bit unfortunate. Warpism will come in and probably try and get rid of that with a few stalker warping or something. So yeah, he can still catch his opponent off guard though if he isn't quite paying attention. He just sort of forgets about it for a moment or two. I mean, obviously we don't expect that to happen, but it's still a possibility that we have to keep in mind. A few Marines and Marauders just moving in towards the centre. We see actually stats moving very far out here with a lot of Adept Stalkers, and there's 2 Colossi which are now up. Then has to be somewhat cautious. Don't think you can afford to kind of run too far forwards here at all. And just back away. Pretty much gets towards the middle of the map and then just backs away, so makes sense. And there's going to be seen by units gathering together once again from aLive. Some more units gathering together right now. This Widowmine is positioned to the south side, and yeah, a few Adepts, a few Stalkers, a couple of Colossi just continue to move across here. Picks off one of the Marines which was trying to contest the Watchtower, so control of the map really became aim of the game at the moment for stats. And to some extent for aLive too, although he doesn't really control much of the map vision at all, unfortunately. Not just yet, obviously. Marine getting picked off there by the Colossi. And there's some Adepts just going to start shading forwards. And the Marines and Marauders looking to see what they can maybe get done. As we see just 2 Adepts going to come in with the attack upgrade. They do manage to one-shot these SCVs, starting to work his way through those. And about 7 workers picked off, 8 workers picked off, 9. In fact, he's got a couple more Adepts over here, so before Adepts, 10 workers killed is again pretty nice, just slowing the time player down. The more the time player is slowed down, the happier stats will be as the game continues on, so should be fairly content with this. As you see, the Dark Shrine is about to finish up now. We also see Viking production en masse here from aLive, and makes a lot of sense. If you have enough Vikings, you get rid of the Colossi quickly. If the Colossi go down quickly, all of a sudden you have much easier time fighting against the Protoss army. You just sort of split up and there's not much else to worry about unless there's Disruptors or High Templar. But there isn't any of those just yet, so for now, the Viking count will work wonders for aLive. It'll put him into a nice position in these later game engages. A few DTs just got warped in, not sure where exactly from. Looks slow with the army, so interested to see if they actually start to head across the map and get aggressive, or if they are just going to sit back, sit in the army, and see where they can go from there. Yeah, still just gathering together. You see the 4th base going down. It's denied though, so it's going to be delayed just a little bit. Again, nothing too major. Prison warp it in. Stats maxed out, and as he maxes out, this is maybe where he does want to try and get aggressive. You know, if he's maxed out and he feels confident with his army, the longer he waits, the more time the Terran has to prepare. So, see if Stats wants to commit in. 2 tiers about to finish up for our Terran player. You're going to see once again 2 Adepts is going to commit. They're going to delay this 4th base once more. Just a frustration, really is, because at this point, what really is there for? What really is there for Stats to wait for? I guess 3-3 is probably the main thing you want to wait for. I like the fact he's just sat on the map and putting himself into like a pressuring position. Though he's just saying, you know, like, hey, be afraid of me, be ready to fight. I want to keep you on your toes. I want to keep you distracted, maybe just by having my army out here. And I want to see that if you do open an opportunity, a time, a window where I can attack in, I'm in position to take advantage of it. As we see 4 Colossi moving forwards, here we go. The fight might start. The DT is already fighting in towards the barriers, and the Liberator siege up. The Vikings coming forward. Stalkers might have to blink under those to try and protect. 1 Colossus falls already. Adepts in the Sentry or 2 doing well. Sentry's probably Guardian Shields. Vikings trying to get rid of the Colossi. Nice little pickup micro on the Colossi, keeping it safe with the Warpism. 1 more goes down though. Stats is winning this fight, despite the fact that he's looks as though he's losing all of his tech and so on. He's winning the fight because he's just doing so much damage on the ground in the meantime. The Liberators don't really get to be part of the fight at all. Sieged up too far back. Would have been worth unsieging those and repositioning during the engagement if he had the opportunity to, but I guess he was busy just microing with other things and so on. Vikings take a lot of control of the micro because you don't just want them to fly sort of willy-nilly in towards the kind of main army, right? You just wanted to make sure they're always kind of kept back in max range, hitting the Colossi, but at max range still. So It did take a lot of babysitting. That's maybe why he wasn't quite on top of moving those liberators forward. May have just not wanted to unsiege the liberators because of the fear of just being kind of attacked, which is a fairly kind of reasonable fear. It's one of those situations where if you unsiege them and your opponent attacks in, you might be in trouble. Whereas if they're still sieged, even if they're a bit far back, then at least you can pull back to them no matter what. So, a little bit interesting. A few High Templar are going to be joining up as you see Adepts making their way into the third base again, and continuous harassment. This is what Pros players really aim for nowadays in the PvT, just continuing all game long to harass with Adepts and just hoping that at some point the Terran player just begins to fall apart against them, because if they do, well, Adept Pros can do so much damage with Adepts, and only Adepts as well. Storm about finishing, High Templars coming in. It's a nice little time to kind of take another fight as Storm is finishing up. He is going into Stargate, and so it's time for that fleet beacon play. Stats just continuing to look ahead in the game, just continuing to look to see, well, you know, what is next? What is my next opportunity? What's my next possibility? What do I have to deal with in the near future? Will I be needing Tempest? Well, the answer is probably yes, because if there's a lot of Vikings and Liberators, Tempest are the units that can really trade super efficiently against all of those, so... We've seen this fourth base under a little bit of fire now. aLive can't really afford to lose an expansion, especially considering the Pros player has 5 bases of his own. First storms are good to kind of just ward the Terran player away. They're not like amazing miracle storms that are just game changer or anything, as we actually see some disruptors join in. Disruptor shots coming forward. It's really good disruptor shots actually. We've seen the Colossi falling down, supplies even up, another storm drops into the top side. Looks as though there's just about enough to win out this fight to the bottom. Again, it is equal upgrades now. It's very, very close. We're going to see a few more depths coming in from the north, and that really will change things. He's going to have to go around the top side though, I think. Go around the top side and maybe up from the north down into the south position, because otherwise there's just going to be these Liberators already set up, right? You're going to see a blink to the side, and he's going to get rid of a single Viking already. Going to go for a couple more. Could have already had them if you target fired. Now he's going to get 4. He's going to get an Archon shot onto them as well, so they all get very low at the same time. He's going to be seeing this composition just moving forward once again. Really feels as though aLive just doesn't quite have what he needs though, and as this Liberator goes down, you sort of look at this, these Vikings are not having a good time, they're going down, aLive just going to GG out. A series of engagements there where Stats just came out ahead of everyone.